What's up, guys? Welcome to the Season 1 finale of the Succession podcast presented by The Disorderly. Please go to thedisorderly.com for the best in sports and entertainment. Disorderly Media on Twitter, Disorderly ENT on Facebook. My name is Nick Rizner. You can find me on Twitter at Nick Rizner, NickRizner. So, this is it. First of all, this show's gotten better and better. I'll get to it later, but I've really flipped on this show. My last companion podcast is episode 7, meaning this one will cover episodes 8 through 10. But honestly, it's more of a recap of the finale and the season as a whole. And so episode 8 was a bachelor party episode, and the episode where Shiv finally crossed the line into having an actual sexual affair. She was teasing it before. I think she got a finger blasted in a car, but now she had an actual sexual affair with Nate. So that happened. Episode 9 was the rehearsal dinner episode, and episode 10, the finale, was all about Shiv and Tom's wedding. Obviously, other things, but that was the main event, if you will. Quick review. It was incredible, and I love where the season left off. I love where this season is heading. As I said, I've gone complete 180 on the show. I've grown to really love it. And that's not always the case, but I'm gonna go out of order and start with the sort of biggest moment from the finale, which of course is the car accident with Kendall. Huge turn of events for a couple of reasons. We get to see that power dynamic between Logan and Kendall really evolve, and really we see the full range of it just over the course of this one action. So first, I'll just go through the episode, I guess, with everything that sort of led up to this. First, we see Kendall stutter and look weak while he tries to sort of feign power. He's doing the hostile takeover thing. He's presenting the letter to his dad and trying to look tough, right? He's been trying to look tough for this entire season for the most part, and he just falls short. When he's in his dad's presence, he can't quite get the job done. That's been the case throughout the season. He confronts his dad, he's kind of talking like he's hot shit at first, and his dad reduces him to, a babbling little kid in seconds, really. It really just takes seconds to do that. But then, after he leaves, you see how much his dad understands and is sort of threatened by the move to buy out the company. He's sitting on the toilet talking to Marcia, explaining how he's in a bad position. It's basically the exact vulnerability that Kendall was expecting, or at least hoping for, but it seems like almost expecting, because he kind of goes in being like, listen, Dad, I'm sorry how this makes you feel, but it's the right decision. And Logan is basically just goes full alpha and scares Kendall out of the room, but then as soon as he's gone, Logan's like, yeah, it's the right decision, and it basically admits that it makes him feel bad too. That's what it seems like anyway. So it seems that Marcia's still the only person that sort of sees this side of Logan. He hides it from the world. He shows it to Marcia. Back at the cocktail hour of the wedding, we see Logan doing his whole intimidating asshole thing again. That leads to him bitching out a waiter, who then gets told to go home. Gets paid, but gets told to go home. Sounds like a good night for him so far, right? That same waiter is the one who ends up going on the drug run with Kendall. There's a deer in the road, causes him to fly off the bridge, and Kendall climbs out of the car, survives. This kid basically dies in the water. So, tough one. Tough episode, tough scene, I should say. But yeah, actually the whole episode is pretty dramatic, and we'll get to the rest of it, but definitely a tough scene. Alas, Logan saves the day, or so it seems, thus returning Logan and Kendall back to their original dynamic. Kendall's this insecure screw-up. Logan is this all-powerful commander-in-chief. This is such a complicated dynamic because Logan's the one that put him there in the first place. Actually, if you want to get into this, Logan's the one that put both of them in that position. His bullying tactic and sort of doing his whole thing instead of just accepting it is kind of what drove Kendall to do drugs again. Probably a trigger. Probably what has driven Kendall to do drugs in the past, too. Just his relationship with his dad, but it's not going to, I won't say it caused the waiter to do drugs, but it caused the waiter to leave early. So, Logan's actions kind of put both of them in this position, ended up with a dead kid, and now he's using it for leverage to get Kendall to drop the plans for this hostile takeover. So pretty dark, pretty twisted, just an asshole move. Logan's an asshole. I think most people can agree on that. Well acting asshole, and somebody who I enjoy watching on screen, but, an asshole. So yeah, man, that's kind of the storyline behind that dynamic. It was wild. It definitely had that finale feel to it, like this big moment. Someone died. It's not necessarily one of those shows where characters are dying left and right. So the fact that a kid died, pretty shocking. It almost reminded me. What? Never mind. I was about to say something. I won't say it. I was going to reference another show, but I guess if you haven't seen it, I just won't. Anyway, it reminded me of another show. But whatever, getting into some other things from around the episode. We have the explosion of the Japanese space shuttle under Roman's watch, which was initially a brilliantly shot scene. I'll acknowledge that. And it also simultaneously had this long-term implication sort of built into it as far as, the series moving forward. But just watching Roman, I guess, literally wash his hands of the situation and pretend like he didn't see it, it really shows how immature and I guess, incapable he is of handling this job. Not to mention that this thing exploded because he moved the launch up to coordinate it with Shiv's wedding, basically doing that classic Roman thing where he's caring more about the optics and the way things look and sort of the flash than any of the logical details, right? Like, that's his thing. He's not going to just sit behind a desk and do stuff. He wants to be flashy. He wants to plan I'm in charge of this rocket now. What if I move it up and it's on Shiv's wedding? Wouldn't that be cool? Won't everyone will think I'm cool and responsible if I do that. And you can tell he even uses that as a bragging point. He's like, I got to handle a fucking launch right before it explodes, right? So I get it. I like it. I think that, it shows basically his ineptitude to do that job, and I think that's going to recur. Nothing happened, too, so that's kind of his case, too, is he kind of scoots out of things all the time. One of these days, he's going to make a mistake like that, and it's going to get really, really bad because he shouldn't be in this position. He's in over his head as the COO, and I like that. I like that dynamic being set up at the end of the season because I think it shows a lot of promise for future seasons. Moving on now, we have Carl, who wants to become the president, which is hilarious, and that also sets up for a really cool plot in future seasons. It sets up for a rivalry between him and Gil, which should be amazing to watch. Shiv finally admits that she cheated on Tom, and that was another one of my favorite scenes in the series. The conversation was so well acted and so deeply emotional. Plus, Tom, through the help of Greg, which we'll get into. We'll definitely get into Greg. Tom has become, honestly, one of my favorite characters in the show, and it was both heartbreaking to see him go through this with Shiv, and at the same time, it's super satisfying to watch him tell Nate to fuck off, basically. Like, when he alphas the shit out of him and makes him pour the wine back in the bottle and tells him to fuck off, I was just so happy for him in that moment because I've grown to like the character, especially after seeing that little nod from Greg, because, Greg's the first one who tried to tell him about the affair. We'll get to that in a second, too. That's from a previous episode, but it was definitely the feel-good moment of an otherwise depressing episode, so I appreciated seeing that, put a smile on my face. You know what? Let's just get to him. Greg, the motherfucking egg, coming in strong at the end by keeping in a few copies of those cruise documents to protect himself. So badass. I'm Team Greg all day. The rest of the show has risen around him. I've actually grown to enjoy the entire show as a whole, but Greg was my first and still is my first love of the show, still the best character, and it's not even close. He's basically, he's just an unnoticed little mole that goes around and absorbs all this evil shit. And people don't really see him, so he's able to just take all this in, and people don't think about the fact that he is dangerous. And he kind of says that to Logan. He was like, Kendall. He's like, I'm probably someone you want to keep on your good side, and I don't know. I liked that. It was badass. Kendall liked it. So anyway, I don't want to go through all of episode 8 and 9, but I will tell you my favorite little bits of both. So episode 8 was my favorite episode of the season, actually. The Bachelor episode or whatever. As dramatic as this finale was, and very well done drama as well, the crux of this show, in my opinion, has always been its ability to walk that comedy drama line. And the Bachelor Party episode was basically a straight up comedy. You have this hugely dramatic episode in the finale that we just saw, and that balance is so impressive to me. Like that Bachelor episode 8, it still kept the politics of the show moving. They're still moving ahead with plot, but it's basically a flat out comedy. The whole episode is filled with laughs, like when Tom thinks, for example, that he has this transcendent experience where a girl blows him and makes him eat his own load. And then the next morning, when he's out of that mindset, he's out of the moment. He's not in it anymore. He's just left with everyone kind of saying like, "Hey man, I heard you drank your own cum," and he was just like, "Yep." And then of course to have Roman bring that girl to the wedding in episode 9, loved that as well. Just a funny little side plot there. And then you have Greg doing drugs for Kendall because Logan told him to be on the lookout for him. It was just really good. It was a funny episode, really enjoyable. It's probably my favorite episode of the season. It really was. Moving on to episode 9, though, there was one scene that really stuck to me. Like I said, I liked that Roman took Tom's bachelor party girl as a date to the wedding. But the part that really stuck out was the conversation between Greg and Tom. So Greg sees Shiv and Nate together. I think he just squeezes her ass or something. He doesn't see him. But he tries to tell Tom about it, and he doesn't want to hear it. Basically because he already knows. He kind of knows it's true. He knows that Shiv's sneaking around on him, and he's essentially just in denial. But that conversation was pretty intense, well acted by all. It ends in a physical altercation, and it's weird, too, because you see this whole dynamic between Greg and Tom. Like, what are they? Because Tom basically just bullied him around, but they're kind of friends. I don't know. It's weird. So you see, Greg really trying to help, I think, by telling Tom about what's going on, and Tom doesn't want to hear it, and he lashes out, which is what made in the finale that little head nod after he tells Nate to fuck off. That little head nod in the finale was so much sweeter because of this scene. It was just really cool, man. I don't know. I really like that scene. But anyway, yeah, if you've been following this podcast, you know that I was not sold on the show at the beginning. I honestly don't know if I've ever done a faster 180 on a show. I don't ever. The only one I can think of is possibly Big Little Lies, but I also never disliked that show. I went from being sort of iffy on it to liking it a lot. But with Succession, I went from really not liking it at all to loving it. Much bigger swing. I don't know. It really snuck up on me, and it's good. It's a really good show. I'd actually recommend it to people. I think I'd recommend it and be like, stick it out. You got to sort of develop an attachment to these characters before you really sell out on, loving this show. But I think they did a good job at doing that. And, the relationships, it's such a complex relationship between each character, but it feels real. It feels like a realistic. These aren't like surface level characters. You're feeling like real complex human emotions and family dynamics and power dynamics and people trying to climb this corporate ladder and navigate this political system. And I don't know. It was good. It's a complicated show. I like the plot. I like where it's going. And I really, honestly, truly believe that these future seasons are going to be good. So I'm hoping the show caught on. I haven't looked at the numbers. I don't know where they're at, but no, it was great. I really enjoyed it. So I hope you guys did as well. Barring any unforeseen circumstances, I assume I'll be coming out with a season 2 companion podcast as well. So whenever that happens, you can tune in and stick to that. If you subscribe to the podcast now, we do all sorts of TV shows. Watching Sharp Objects right now. We're halfway through it. I don't know exactly what we're going to do in the future. Definitely like Game of Thrones. But besides that, I don't know. But we're always doing new stuff. So maybe a Hard Knocks something. If you're a sports fan, I'm going to watch that tonight. Review, recap, podcast, article, I don't know. Just head to disorderly.com, Disorderly Media on Twitter, Disorderly ENT on Facebook. You can find all our stuff there. My name is Nick Rizner. You can find me on Twitter at Nick Rizner, NickRizner. You can find all my stuff there, and that'll do it. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your week. I won't see you next week for this one, so I'll see you on the Sharp Objects podcast if you feel like checking that out. Otherwise, I don't know. I'll see you when I see you. All right, peace, guys.